Now, what kind of things so I'm going to do a tabletop stretch to stretch out my piriformis, improve my external rotation. So here's something I kind of find interesting is that Kelly Starrett always talks about foam rolling after your workouts and not do a whole lot of foam rolling before. And I can see how that could be bad, because I remember in the past, when I first learned foam rolling through NASM, like literally 10 years ago, like over 10 years ago, I would foam roll because I was so tight and stiff, and I would not want to work out anymore. Basically, I would be like in some sort of pain because my lower back's bothering me, and I'm trying to fix myself. And then what ends up happening is I can't do anything. I end up, after I foam roll, I'm so relaxed that I kind of don't want to work out anymore. So I can see that. But I think some smashing definitely has some warrant to it, because obviously, as you can tell by just the test that I just did, it made a significant improvement in my squat. I'm being able to get down lower to parallel with less restriction of my own tissues. So now I'm going to do my tabletop stretch to stretch my piriformis. And when I stretch this way, I get more of my inner thigh. So hold here for a few seconds. Contract by pushing my knee up towards my right hand here. Relax. And then I'm going to turn my body. Stretch out my hip. One of the things I also found kind of interesting is that, the hip flexor stretch I noticed was the couch stretch, if you're familiar with it, is very effective for, kind of minimizing lower back pain. But as far as improving mobility, I've never found any really good benefit to it. It wasn't really like immediate results like some of the foam rolling that helped for me, or the smashing that's helped for me. And also these kind of stretches I'm doing here. So going here, so bringing my leg a little bit more in so I can push my knee out more. Okay, so it doesn't seem like it worked very much, because that was very hard for me to do. So not much improvement. I do feel like I can push my knees out more, but my piriformis is having trouble activating, or my glutes are having trouble spinning out. So I'm probably, if I were to squat today, this would be actually a good time for me to mobilize, to just start working out now and start squatting, because now I can get close enough to where I need to be, so that way I can basically squat some weight, because then the weight will end up pushing me to where I need to be with minimal assistance, and then I'll eventually become more flexible. But without the weight, one way thing I can do definitely is focus on getting this kettlebell here, which is the same thing actually, sitting here for a moment, and see if I can teach my body to be in this position. So it means actively using my adductors. All right, so let me repeat that. So I'm using my adductors to push my knees apart. Now, am I using my adductors to push my knees apart? I'm actually using my glutes, external hip rotators to pull my knees apart. The other thing to consider is that the inner thigh muscles here, right? These muscles also help push your knees apart at certain angles. I think it's in Ripeto's book, in Starting Strength, where he talks about how the adductors kind of kick in. And it's kind of weird because the way the muscle attaches, I'll have an anatomy picture so you can see it, but then there'll be like an attachment right here in the knee, or the femur, and then back underneath here in the back of the femur. And sort of what's interesting is that it's involved in a lot of different funky motions. I know it's a powerful adductor, the adductor magnus, but specifically in this movement, it actually helps push your knees out, specifically trying to create external rotation at the hip a little bit because of the way the muscles attach. I mean, it's kind of hard to explain. I can't really articulate it very well, but most of what I show you is more like, let's go see if this works. If it works, keep doing it, So, so now you can see I'm actually getting really close to the box. And I actually can hang out here pretty good now. Because what I'm able to do is, right now my biggest problem is I'm feeling restriction on both sides, but one of the things I'm having a lot of trouble is right on this left side. So if I push this side out more, I kind of create more space. Now I can stretch this out by pushing this knee out more, which is going to be effective, but probably one of the biggest problems I'm having on this left side is this glute here is having trouble keeping this hip out. And if I had better ankle flexibility, one thing to consider too is that I would have more options to go more forward. I would be able to push my knee forward and have more dorsiflexion. But because I don't have really good, I don't have that motor pattern really well, I don't have good dorsiflexion, what ends up happening is I'm having to resort to sort of this excessive external rotation. Look at that, I can touch the bottom now. Mission accomplished. Still a lot more work to go, but the kettlebell stretch is probably one of the most effective things I just did just now, which means I probably would benefit by doing more of it, and more specifically on a box that's low, so that way I can give myself a break. I can come up. Basically I'm making my own shit up right now. Look at that. Still some restriction. So where is my restriction point? Right here. That's my restriction point. I can force myself in there, but that's about my restriction point because I don't have that motor control. And some other things to kind of think about when it comes to this sort of position is that I'm not very good at actively using my hip flexors, because one of the problems is that hip flexors help move your pelvis in the correct position while you get down to the bottom of a squat. So you think about this for a second. Since I already have trouble, like earlier when I started this video, I could basically get down to about here, right? And then after mobilizing foam rolling, I was able to get down to here. After stretching, I'm able to get here. So what the problem is because I'm so stiff and tight, what happens is I'm not able to train that range of motion. So if I really want to get good at this, I need to start doing this more often, obviously. And more importantly, I need to get into that position and practice getting into that position. It doesn't matter if it's with weight. It's going to help, obviously, if I have a kettlebell here. But it's more about learning that position. And the way I can tell you about this now, the reason why I know it'll help me is because in the past I've been more flexible. You know, a lot of some stuff I've neglected, and also my lifestyle and just kind of my predisposition for certain things as far as my genetics and kind of my history, I should say, that kind of affect my movement. So if I do a lot of deadlifting and not a lot of squatting, the moment I start squatting, I start to get better at squatting. And then I kind of get more flexible. So I don't know exactly where I was going with that, but my point was that what I've learned is that as long as I'm able to squat to parallel or below parallel and practice that, I'll maintain as much as I can. Sometimes if I squat too heavy, what I've noticed is that I end up kind of sacrificing some good motor patterns. So that means higher reps are going to be more effective with improving my flexibility. And of course that might be obvious to a lot of you, but sometimes as a powerlifter, the powerlifter mindset, or my mindset I should say, I speak for myself, not all powerlifters, is that you're just focusing on trying to make progress as much as possible, which is trying to move as much weight as possible. Another thing that's also kind of affected what I've noticed too is over the years, one of the tough spots about being in this position here is having good lat control, because sometimes the lats get overactive and it makes it really hard on the upper back and middle back, and you can get kind of sore there and it'll cramp. I've noticed that maybe about 2 years ago when I was trying to mess with this stuff. So coming down, coming up, down, and then I'm coming up. Look at this. It's almost like a new person. Squat still has a lot of work to do. And that's the end of my video. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something from this. Click like if you haven't already. Leave a comment if you have a question. And I'll see you guys in the next video.